Squidward somehow managed to snag himself a big tiki-head mansion on a fast food cashier's salary. How in the world is that possible? He's balancing his dreams of becoming a clarinet player while doing endless house upgrades and loving the finer things, all while clocking in each day at the Krusty Krab. How does he make it work?
What do you want?
So what's his real income? Is he hiding some secret stash, or is there more to Bikini Bottom's economy than we think? How much money does Squidward really make? Let's explore the real mystery here, the baffling economy of Bikini Bottom. For a town where you can buy a Krabby Patty for about $1, somehow Squidward, SpongeBob, and Mr. Krabs all seem to live completely different lifestyles. It's not just Squidward's tiki-head mansion or Mr. Krabs' hidden treasure vault. SpongeBob lives in a pineapple house with more square footage than makes any sense for a fry cook. So, what's going on here? Mr. Krabs is known for pinching pennies, yet somehow his business is always thriving. For instance, we see the Krusty Krab packed with customers almost every day, even though he runs it more like a one-man empire than a modern restaurant. With all of Bikini Bottom filling up the Krusty Krab and minimal overhead costs, you'd think Mr. Krabs would be paying out bigger salaries, or at least a livable wage. Instead, it seems like wages have been frozen for years, and employees are rewarded with unpaid overtime.
Overtime? 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 Let's see here. Oversold, overspent. Overtime. More money per hour. Filthy, disgusting word.
But maybe there's more to Bikini Bottom's economy than the Krusty Krab. Characters like Larry the Lobster and Pearl seem to have nice lifestyles too. Maybe there's a system of side hustles we don't see. For Squidward, his constant attempts at clarinet concerts and art shows might be his version of a second job. In fact, every time Squidward tries to profit off his art, it's as if Bikini Bottom's residents have an extra few clams lying around to throw at whatever passion project their neighbors are putting out. Whether it's because of a strong community economy or some form of aquatic financial magic, Bikini Bottom appears to be a place where nobody really struggles in the way we'd expect from low wages. But what do the numbers say? Well, Mr. Krabs treats the Krusty Krab like a vessel, and he's able to fly a Liberian flag of convenience, meaning he's only required to pay his employees the Liberian minimum wage. Since Liberia's minimum wage is just 15 Liberian dollars, about 31 cents USD, he's paying 24 times less than the US minimum wage. That means SpongeBob and Squidward on paper are compensated with the underwater equivalent of pennies. The Krusty Krab seats around 20 patrons at a time, with a steady flow of regulars filling those seats throughout the day. Over a typical 9-hour shift, the restaurant serves approximately 180 customers, many of whom are so addicted to Krabby Patties that they've made dining there a daily ritual. So let's crunch some Krabby Patty numbers here. After all, we're talking about one of the hottest spots in Bikini Bottom. Now, if Mr. Krabs keeps the Krusty Krab open 6 days a week, we're looking at about 1,080 customers rolling in weekly. Over a year, that adds up to 56,160 patties devoured. And if we assume each Krabby Patty is priced at a fine dining price of $25, this underwater burger joint could be raking in around $1.4 million a year. But does that even explain how Squidward might afford his fancy lifestyle on Krusty Krab wages? Let's keep going. Now, with such high revenue, Mr. Krabs has a tidy income to stash away, even after subtracting Squidward and SpongeBob's combined salaries, which only come out to about $1,741 per year. After expenses, he's left with around $1,402,259 in pre-tax revenue. And here's where things get even better for Mr. Krabs. As the sole proprietor of the Krusty Krab, he applies a 10% sole owner tax to his earnings, allowing him to pocket an additional $140,225 before any formal taxes come into play. Yet the tax policies of Bikini Bottom, or lack thereof, work even further in his favor. Since there isn't exactly a functioning government or oversight structure, Mr. Krabs can take advantage of additional loopholes, potentially reducing his tax burden to near zero. As a result, his actual take-home earnings after minimal deductions add up to a staggering $1,262,033 each year. And with SpongeBob's dedication spanning roughly 20 years, Mr. Krabs has amassed over $25 million since the Krusty Krab first opened its doors. But what's the amount that he is paying to Squidward? We know that SpongeBob works nearly 23 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is almost impossible. But even with this insane work ethic, he barely scrapes by, often earning things like wacky bucks instead of actual cash. This begs the question, is Squidward on a similar wage? Well, we've seen glimpses of how little Mr. Krabs values paying his employees, including one episode where SpongeBob ends up paying Mr. Krabs just to work there. That probably means Squidward's not making much more, but even if Squidward does pull in a few clams, it's hard to believe he's able to maintain a nice house, a gourmet kitchen, and an art studio with the peanuts Mr. Krabs is known to pay.
Need some change?
No,
Why?
because I'm all out of money!
Let's break down Squidward's annual salary. Assuming Squidward works around 40 hours a week, he would earn around $644.80 USD. For context, this amount would be far below the US poverty line, yet it's technically legal under Liberian labor laws. Squidward's frustration at his low pay now makes perfect sense, considering his wage barely covers basic living costs, let alone any aspirations for a lavish lifestyle. However, given Mr. Krabs' penny-pinching tendencies, he might only pay Squidward for hours when the restaurant has customers, a figure we estimated earlier at around 9 hours per day for 6 days a week, or 54 hours weekly. If Mr. Krabs limits his wage to customer hours only, Squidward's salary could look more like $870.48 USD. But as you've probably guessed, there's more to the story. There are moments in the show that hint Squidward's financial life might not be so simple. For one, Squidward went to school with Squilliam Fancyson, a confirmed multimillionaire. It's not unreasonable to think Squidward's family might have had some money too. In fact, Squidward seems to live in a neighborhood with mostly upscale homes. While he's working at a burger joint now, it's possible that he's got some inheritance or family savings keeping him afloat. Then there's his side gig as a musician. Squidward is far from the best clarinet player in Bikini Bottom, but it's possible he could pick up the occasional gig. After all, even lousy musicians sometimes get hired, right? So if Squidward's salary doesn't add up, where's his money really coming from?
Yes, I'd like to order the Sunday special. Yes, the pedicure and foot massage house call, that is correct. See you at 4, my good man.
The internet has some hilarious and surprisingly convincing theories about Squidward's secret stash. One popular theory is that Squidward has some hidden wealth, or as some fans speculate, a well-managed inheritance. After all, Squidward's family background remains a mystery, and there's no mention of his parents or any clue about his financial situation before he arrived in Bikini Bottom. Maybe he's got a trust fund or some deep-sea dividends rolling in. Then there's this theory that Squidward might actually be a low-key art investor. Despite his questionable clarinet skills, Squidward is a devoted artist and musician. His house is filled with paintings, sculptures, and art supplies, all hinting at a serious passion, and maybe some impressive returns.
There he is! He's headed for that open window! I got you little rascal.
While his artwork rarely sells, it's possible he has a collection that's worth more than we think. Perhaps those self-portraits he's obsessed with are actually valuable and he's holding on to them for their future potential. Given his talent for sculpting and painting, maybe his art collection could be his secret backup plan.
Just look at my unfinished painting and my unfinished symphony.
And I have this theory that Squidward might be something of a criminal mastermind. We know he has little respect for Bikini Bottom's rules, and he's not exactly above scheming if it means a bit of extra cash. It wouldn't be far-fetched to think Squidward has a side hustle or two we don't see, maybe in the form of a secret business he's running in the evenings, or maybe he's part of an underground Bikini Bottom art cartel, supplying rare underwater art to secret clients across the sea. Of course, the simplest theory is that Squidward might be frugal to the point of absurdity. He's not exactly spending on luxury or entertainment, and he seems to prefer staying home over going out. For someone who values solitude and quiet time, it's possible that Squidward just doesn't spend much money at all. But that raises a good question. Just how much is Squidward's impressive tiki-style mansion worth? His 3-story, stone-faced mansion is practically a landmark in Bikini Bottom. From the outside, Squidward's home stands out with its towering head-shaped structure, complete with intricate features and a polished stone facade. Given the lavish design and unique architectural style, I would say that Squidward's home could be worth a small fortune. Real estate experts might say that a custom house with Squidward's layout, located in a prime spot with ocean views, would fetch a hefty price. The property even has multiple floors, high ceilings, and enough space for a home studio, suggesting it was either designed with specific attention to Squidward's needs, or is simply a high-end structure by Bikini Bottom standards. Now, a 3-story beachfront house in a human city would be sky-high in price, especially in a location with views of jellyfish fields and walking distance to the town's main attractions. But here's where things get tricky. Bikini Bottom doesn't exactly operate on our property market, so any estimation would be speculative at best. Still, if we take a cue from prime coastal real estate on land, a house like Squidward's would probably run into the hundreds of thousands, if not more. If Squidward's lifestyle seems a bit out of reach, he's not alone in Bikini Bottom. In fact, when you look around, it's hard not to notice that most residents live surprisingly well, considering their, let's say, unusual jobs.
Now watch it! I could buy and sell you!
Take Patrick, for example. He doesn't even have a job, and yet he manages to live quite comfortably under his rock, always with a full pantry and no apparent financial stress. Somehow, he spends his days jellyfishing, watching TV, and avoiding anything that remotely resembles work. So, how is he funding his relaxed lifestyle? Maybe it's seaweed-based minimalism, or perhaps Patrick's managed to live off some unknown underwater welfare system. Or, as some fans joke, maybe Bikini Bottom is secretly socialist. Then there's the possibility that Bikini Bottom's government is much more supportive than it looks. Could the town offer free housing, or maybe there's a robust social safety net that keeps people afloat despite Mr. Krab's stingy payroll? If that's the case, Squidward might not need a high salary to maintain his home and lifestyle. So, what do you think? Is Squidward secretly wealthy, or could he be struggling to hold on to the life he wants? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, take care and stay tuned.